I want to get this kicked off because we have a really great discussion here. I'm really excited to be talking with Sean Moss with Down Payment Resource and Mosi Gatling. Down Payment Resource um, is an incredible company that we have been talking about at FirstHome IQ for a really long time and just recently formalized a partnership. So we want to spend this time talking a little bit about down payment assistance, how it's used, and how to talk about it, how to leverage that better, so that we can reach more first-time homebuyers. I'm Kristin Messerli, Executive Director of FirstHome IQ. We are a nonprofit. If you're not aware of us, we help people educate the next generation about homeownership and financial literacy. And we have a lot of programs around that education piece. And then I'll let Sean and Mosi, each of you, introduce yourselves a little bit. Mosi, let's start with you, who recently joined our board. Mosi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Mosi Gatling. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Growth and Expansion, big mouthful at New American Funding. I get to do cool stuff with creating programs, retooling messaging to make sure we're meeting clients where they're at. And believe it or not, I actually still originate on top of doing that too, because I want to be close to the fire and where it's all happening so I can make sure to make things that are relevant to the buyers of today.
Every time I talk to Mosi, I feel like my mind is blown and I'm constantly just like, I didn't know that. This is such helpful information to better understand either the next generation or cultural dynamics or just the way that we talk about home ownership. So yeah, we'll get into some of that today. Sean, a little intro from you.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I am Sean Moss, EVP of Product and Operations at Down Payment Resource. So primarily, I manage the evolution of our platform and the processes and technologies that we deploy and the people that we deploy to track and monitor 2,500 plus homebuyer assistance programs around the country.
Incredible. And I have just, watched this explode over the last decade or when did Down Payment Resource start exactly? When was it founded?
2008.
Okay. Yeah.
15 of those 17 years.
It's incredible. Such a huge resource. So we'll get into a little bit of that. I would love to start with you, Sean, just giving a little bit of kind of context here. And I know you have a lot of data around just who is using down payment assistance. If you could start with what percentage of home buyers today qualify for down payment assistance, and if there's any other kind of, contextual information that would be helpful as we start the conversation.
Yeah, sure. And I'll start with some sort of formalized data through studies that we've participated in or contributed to. We did a study with the Urban Institute or participated in one 2 years ago, I think, using 2022 HMDA data. And they we looked at the top 10 MSAs, the 10 largest markets in the country, and broke down DPA eligibility based on a few factors, income, median home price, and so forth. But across all loan types in those 10 MSAs, 43.6%, it's almost 44% of those people who closed on a home. Now they closed, right? These aren't people who were in the pipeline. But almost 44% were eligible for DPA. But then when we broke that down by loan type, for FHA, it skyrocketed to 79.8, so almost 80%. So big gap between conventional, which was like 36% versus FHA. But a couple other ways to quantify that is FHA contributes, or not contributes, but FHA publishes as part of their annual report to Congress how many people actually got down payment assistance. And they carve out government-funded down payment assistance. So not Bank of Mom and Dad, but who's getting program DPA from your state housing agency or a city or a county or something like that. And that's right at 16% last year. So there's a huge disparity between the people that are eligible and the people that are getting the help. And then I'll summarize that one other way. A different way to look at that is when we analyze the declined pipelines for lenders, we find that on average about 33% of declined loan applicants were eligible for DPA. and declined only for cash to close or ratios. So there's an existing pipeline of people that are also eligible for DPA, but they're not making it to closing. So there's a couple of different sort of formalized ways of quantifying that.
Wow, that is a huge amount of people that lenders could have access to, that are available to them if they use down payment assistance. So I just want to summarize again. You said how many people qualify for down payment assistance? 44%?
Yeah, that was in the top 10 MSAs alone. That's not
Okay.
nationwide.
Wow. And then only 15 or 16% are actually using it.
For FHA.
Or for FHA. Okay. That's wild. So I know some of the reason why people don't use down payment assistance is because of myths about that, or even just negativity that people feel like it's something for, like we framed it as something for the needy, or for there's like negative connotations around down payment assistance. Mose, could you speak to a little bit of what are some of the myths and misconceptions about down payment assistance? And from the consumer and from the lending side as well.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like the real estate and mortgage industry has long propositioned down payment assistance like it is only for the have-nots. If you look at our marketing typically and how we advertise it or present it, it's always, if you don't have, then I have a solution for you. And I feel that it's grown way beyond that. And I try to make it a habit to incorporate that off the bat, whether or not I'm asked for it. And it became kind of one of my missions to do that when I realized that even when I talk to people that are considered wealthy, athletes and things like that, one of the one questions they always ask is, hey, let me know if there's any programs I qualify for. And I started thinking, wow, man, everybody wants to leverage a program if they could to make their life easier long term. It's not just for people who don't have money or people that go to nonprofits per se and have affordability issues. They're not one and the same. Leveraging down payment for people needs to be phrased as just that. You have the opportunity to leverage money from alternative sources to be able to purchase. And it is for the person that might have kids that are going to be college age, because simply we can save them money and they fit the box. So instead of phrasing it in these words that are empowering or that reference it more as a tool, we have stuck for so long with it being like, hey, if you happen to not have, then here's something for you. And there, I feel like that is part of where the missed opportunity lies, because if they say they have the money, is it the path of least resistance or the low-hanging fruit to just let them spend their money, even though their financial plan for their family could encompass so much more if we took the time to kind of explore it on those bases. So also, that same marketing makes people think, as far as the consumer is concerned, that maybe those programs aren't for them because maybe they're a little bit more well off, when if you leverage down payment resources, actual tools, you'll be able to find and match programs that don't have income limitations, right? Or that have way higher income limitations. So someone making $160,000 a year household income can in fact use the programs. So there is a lot of give and wiggle room for it to be for maybe not everybody, but the box is far bigger than we've led people to think that it is. And therefore they feel like they don't need it or it can't be offered. And I think it's a miss when you do that.
Totally. I remember when I interviewed you one time early with FirstHome IQ, and you talked about leveraging other people's money as a different way of framing down payment assistance. And I think, when you say it like that, people understand that that's how wealthy people get wealthy, is leveraging other people's money. And yeah, assistance sounds negative sometimes.
Sounds negative. It sounds needy. It sounds like you put them in a box as they don't have enough money to purchase or take care of their family. If anybody saw my post that I was going to be on this webinar today, I always use this hashtag, talk to me like I'm Taylor Swift, because I know the most wealthy people, literally, it doesn't matter what your package looks like or what you think their socioeconomic status is. Talk to everybody like they're Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift would want you to bring out the big guns, tell them every deal that you can offer them, every opportunity that they would have to leverage money. Because again, if they get assistance or down payment programs, that money might just be reinvested somewhere else. It's that simple. You're really expanding a family's financial ability overall, and it doesn't boil down to them not having the money to be able to buy a house. It's give me, if I could get down payment assistance, I'd be the first one to take it if the math was mathing, so I can help my kids through college, or use that money so I could gift it to them to be able to buy, or something else in my life. And I feel that a lot of times they miss out on that because we look at their bank accounts and, oh, they can have it, but then if it depletes their funds, where does that leave them with their future? And again, it's that consultative strategy, being an LO now, or being even a real estate agent, that we have to think of and be mindful how we're talking to people and exploring their background to maybe fit them with an option that might be from a down payment program to get further in life financially and get them where they want to be.
Yeah. And also, I mean, just having the conversation, I think opens the door to people, whether or not they decide to use the down payment assistance. There's, in our 2025 Next Gen Homebuyer Report, we saw that 95% of Gen Z and millennials still want to be homeowners, but 35% feel that it's just a dream. And so there's you think about the data that Sean shared, how much of this population is feeling that homeownership is out of reach. It's not going to be attainable for them. And yet if they had this conversation, maybe they'd realize, yeah, okay, I do want to put down a down payment. Our last financial literacy report, we saw 70% thought you needed 10 or 20% down. So there's still a lot of misconceptions and just feeling that it's out of reach. But this could open the door, whether or not they use it. It's starting a huge conversation. Sean, I'd love to bring you in talking a little bit more about what are some of the misconceptions lenders and realtors have around down payment assistance as well.
Yeah, and actually an extension to kind of what Mosi was saying, on the consumer side, and I think this is a misperception, especially among real estate agents, but a lot of people think these programs are only for first-time home buyers. Like if you currently own or you recently owned, then you're out. That's it. And almost 40% of home buyer assistance programs don't have a first-time home buyer requirement. And then there's the whole 3-year rule, right? If you haven't owned in the most recent 3 years, then you're a first-time home buyer anyway. So that's a big misperception. I think the biggest one among lenders and really real estate agents too is that DPA is going to slow down the transaction. And Mosi, I'm almost going to just completely defer to you there because you're originating these things. But I will say, I think a lot of that stems from bad past experiences. An agent representing a seller had a bad experience, their deal didn't close on time, and now they just don't want to touch DPA because it was DPA's fault, right? Did you set appropriate expectations? Did you engage all the stakeholders? Did you follow the timeline? Did you get homebuyer education done? Like there's just a small few extra things, and I don't want to oversimplify, but Mosi, I'll actually defer to you. Like, what are your thoughts or experiences around that?
Man, let's talk about technology and how it is the savior of all things in real life. When I did my first down payment assistance in 2006, yes, I had to fax the package over to the state for them to do a compliance review. It was like 97 pages. The fax kept jamming. It was terrible. And I felt like scarred after I did it. But again, continue to push through. But with technology now, it's literally in most tech stacks at majority of companies, it's a couple more button clicks. Literally, you are able to self approve everything and don't normally have to send majority of down payment assistance for a compliance review through the state agency. So it's all done in-house. It really should be part of just that normal step of qualifying and looking for options for people. So it is not a hard thing in majority of the tech stacks that are out there right now to be able to offer this and get it through. So it might be some people that have been in the business and went through the hard road, right? 15 years ago with down payment assistance, got scarred, you're waiting on the down payment agency. Yeah, it did used to be like that, but those are things that I don't even face now with down payment programs. And if they do, they streamline them because of technology, and we have the opportunity to really leverage majority of these programs with no hiccups.
Yeah, actually, just yes or no or add color to it. But do you ever pick up the phone and call the seller's agent, the listing agent?
all the time. Actually, when an offer goes out, I've started to, in order to build relationships, have trust. I pick up the phone and call them or text them or email them and say, let me know if you have any questions. This is what's going on with the buyer. Let me let you know this is fully qualified. It's being pre-underwritten up front. So we're really good to go. We should be able to close within the amount of time specified on said offer. They appreciate it. And then I continue to communicate them and tell them when we've gotten clear to close. So it's a real partnership with everybody, and it's growing my business because I take the time to do that. I look at it as an opportunity to explain the value that this buyer comes with in their purchase.
Yeah, and it's just that's what makes DPA scalable and repeatable, is just understanding the expectations and the timeline and each party's obligations. So, Kristen, back to your original point, like what are some of the misperceptions? I think the biggest one among the professional audience, like separate the consumer, is that this is going to slow down the transaction. It's going to throw a cog in the gears that it's not going to be able to shift through and so forth. And it just takes good practices, and that begets more good practices among your peers, and then they start to realize, oh, this isn't such a bad thing. In fact, I'm starting to see the value in this.
Yeah, that's a really good best practice. And hopefully everyone on the call caught that, of just the idea of this continual partnership. And I know as a buyer, how important that would have been to me, to have my loan officer reaching out to the seller's agent, like just, in any purchase, but especially whenever something like that is happening because of those misconceptions. And I think that can help a lot. So that's awesome. And I'd love to talk about some of the, like, what are some of the wins that come with down payment assistance? I know both of you have many stories of first-time homebuyers that would have not been able to get into homeownership without down payment assistance. So I'd love to just kind of hear. Oh, and I also want to throw out to the audience, though, if you have questions, if you have other things that you're like, this is what holds me back from using down payment assistance, or here's what I've heard about, please drop those in the chat, raise your hand. We are set up as a meeting so that we can pull you into the conversation. So don't hesitate to do that. Oh, and yeah, before we move on, we did have one. The biggest issue for me is always the time it takes to locate the programs, if they're available, the guidelines for each as they differ. And Sean, let me let you answer that.
So there's the company out there. um, that's our, I mean, our vision is that aspiring home buyers will know that down payment help exists and where to find it. But we realize that that is also done through the professionals that serve those consumers, and that's what our platform is, especially for lenders. We make it easy for your product team to uncover these opportunities, but avoid trying to boil the ocean. Just focus on what you need in your market for your LOs, and roll with those products, train them up, and scale and repeat. We could go into more of that later, but I mean, that's the gist of our platform, is making DPA easy for lenders.
That's so good. I don't know if this is the right link to put in there, but I put in downpaymentresource.com/professionals. There's a lot of resources on their website about how it works and how to use this, but it seems like this is the whole thing. It's simplified things. So excited to talk more about that. Okay, so what was my question? Oh yeah, what are some of the positive stories? Like, how is this changing people's lives? What are some of the things that you have seen that as a result of down payment assistance, either on an individual level or even on an enterprise like company level? And I'll let either one of you start with that.
I can start. I think I'm going to throw you for a little bit of a loop and kind of provoke some thought. It definitely helps consumers, and I have a lot of stories for that, but I found that down payment programs right now are serving me a little bit differently because of the current market. Right now, consumer confidence is a huge thing, and a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines, maybe not necessarily waiting for a lower rate, but really hesitant on spending the money if they have it. So a lot of these down payment programs across the United States. I am licensed in 18 states. So yes, I'm one of the ones that have to juggle different programs, even though I don't sit in that state to be doing them every single day. But knowing where the down payments are and to be able to offer that upfront is making the difference in the buyers that I'm referred going forward with the purchase or not. Because the difference on, believe it or not, I closed one that was a little over $500,000 purchase. She made great money. She has children. She was relocating from New York to Las Vegas. And we rolled out down payment assistance for her as an option for her to be able to keep some of her money. Because I was able to give her back, and believe it or not, the down payment was a little over $17,000, right? Under 18, but over 17,000. That's almost 6 months of her monthly payment she was able to keep in her pocket because I offered that. That is security. That's financial security right now. So if you have somebody that's on the fence or not sure if they want to go forward, it might be the spend. It might be that confidence they have right now in the market and why they're putting it off. I think enough people are like, okay, well, rates are maybe where they are. And what can I do about this to leverage this for my best interest? So really talking to people and getting down to what's making them tick right now is a huge thing. And again, that's kind of the problem. It's always been focused on, hey, if you don't have the money, this was different. She had the money, but if she spent it, it was all about what she would have left for sustainability. And that's where a real win comes in because she's went and told other people. She's in hospital administration. She makes over 6 figures. But like Sean said, there are programs that don't limit you to making, it's not like it was 15 years ago where you had to make $50,000 or less to be able to get the program. She's owned before, but sold and hadn't owned for 3 years. It was an amazing win for her all the way around. And it gave her the confidence to be able to purchase in this market and still have the ability to, if anything changed in life, to have money in the bank and not deplete her funds to a point where she just wasn't comfortable. So I think it's a great tool now, like I said, and not just helping people that don't have the money realize home ownership, but it takes that burden off the plate for a lot of people right now that aren't sure if they want to get out there and buy. And interest rates vary. Sometimes you can do 2-1 buy downs on some of these down payment programs. It's always good that if you locate a down payment program to even call them or email them and ask them if they have any other options, because you'd be amazed that picking up the phone and calling, they may accept a 2-1 buy down, on a program, which I have also done, which was a win that wasn't advertised for a home buyer. And they were like, wow, I can use seller funds for incentive, buy down on a 2-1 buy down, get the down payment. They were wowed. And it's just making sure you kind of massage the situation, have all your options stacked and loaded, and be able to make that presentation to the homeowner.
Yeah, and there are a number, I would say increasingly more down payment programs are allowing for buy downs, and in particular, permanent interest rate buy downs, which I would argue is maybe better than a temporary. Nonetheless, you sort of hinted at something that I hadn't thought about in a while, but I think it was a Federal Reserve Bank or a big bank or something put out a study like 3 or 4 years ago, and they were looking at liquidity versus equity. And equity was how big is your down payment? Liquidity is how much do you have left after you buy a home? And all it took was like 1 or 2 months, 3 months of reserves to almost ensure that they would be able to remain in that home. Like it didn't take much at all. And then it just sort of petered off from there. Like more reserves was great, but the biggest impact was having none versus like 2 months of reserves. And so is it better to have a bigger down payment, to your point, Mosi, if that leaves you with no liquidity to handle emergencies, to handle the obligations of home ownership and so forth? Um, and one other approach here is loan officers getting a win because they're just good at DPA. And I'll frame this up. The number one question that we hear from real estate agents in all of our training is always, how do I find a loan officer that can help me with DPA? But what they're really asking for is three things. An LO that offers the programs, is good at the programs, and wants that business. They have to meet those three requirements for this to truly be a successful partnership. So we foster communities like Down Payment Insiders on Facebook or something, and LOs go there and start broadcasting this message, and they're building relationships with people in market or even out of market based on, licensures. So anyway, that's another win that's not necessarily just the consumer winning, but I'll give you one more example just from a consumer perspective, and I'll go through this one quickly. But uh, what's his name? Broker in Florida told us this story. A real estate broker, Max Rivera. He's a broker in Central Florida, and this was years ago, but he had a client come to him, single mom, 2 kids, needed about $8,000, I think, for a down payment on a home, and didn't have it. So she said, all right, I'll just go save. It'll take me about 4 years. Well, Max said, well, hold on. Have you heard about down payment assistance programs? Pulled up our tool, but nonetheless, the point is DPA. Found a program, got her the down payment that she needed. She bought the house, and 4 years later, she had 70 some thousand dollars in equity in that home, and her kids were being brought up in a home with a yard and so forth. And that's the start of the generational equity build. And wasn't going to happen. Like, she could have saved 8 grand over 4 years, but the goalpost would have moved. So 8 grand wouldn't have been enough. So that's the kind of that's the, I don't know, sort of legacy view, I guess, kind of Mosaic, like to your point, that's the legacy view of how DPA helps. But I actually like the fact that we took this other attack here, because there's a lot of other ways to get a win with DPA.
Yeah. Also with qualifying, because if you can use, like, if you are trying to run a qualification in the system and it's not giving me an approval, sometimes adding down payment program to it does force that reserve situation to occur that we didn't have naturally. Now I have an approved loan versus a non-approved loan.
Yeah, or combat ratios too. If you're
Exactly.
on ratios, DPA can bring that down.
Ratios, reserves, everything that we're looking at for qualifying. So it's always like on the table immediately for every single buyer. Because at least if I offer it, they could say, no, I'm okay, but they can see the use case really, and that I had their best interest at heart. And I'll say this, I did a ton of loans back in pandemic era. And when I was doing the loans, I wanted to offer it to everyone. And all of those people, again, I'm in Las Vegas. So yeah, all the casinos shut down, right? So the people that I did loans for and offered down payment assistance to, I got to see what I'm preaching in real life action, because if they didn't have their job or their hours got cut, they had the savings that they needed to sustain. My neighborhood watch numbers, because if LOs don't know this, yes, HUD watches us, right? They have a neighborhood watch score for every NMLS number that's out there, and they track the performance of the loans that you do. And I had less than a 2% delinquency rate from 2020 to 2023, even though like such a high percentage of my buyers had down payment programs. So it was a help. You can help buyers that are even low to moderate income, and they won't necessarily default because you're building this in for them, the savings habit, the reserves and things like that. So it's really good practice all the way through.
And they're also going through a home buyer education class too, which is only making their prospects better as a future homeowner.
Yeah, and Mose, you were talking about the buyer that was very anxious and valued security, and even if they didn't need those reserves, or but they need to feel that confidence, they need to feel the security. That can be very meaningful in the difference between becoming a homeowner and holding off. And I talk a lot about the anxious, avoidant consumer, and I think that this is at least the conversation is something that can really pull in deals with the half of consumers who are really very anxious and avoidant with their finances to begin with. But when they are able to understand, oh, there's ways that I can leverage other people's money, this can really build confidence. And so I am curious, we were starting to talk a little bit about brand and how you build brand with down payment assistance, or with talking about this in your community. So Mose, how do you build your, are you talking about down payment assistance on social media? How do you create awareness around that, and how does that help you?
I think mostly because of the way that I talk about it, the consumers will spread the information, and so do other partners, because they're also able to, my real estate partners are able to have these conversations and not be taken as you're making an assumption, which I think is hard for real estate agents, right? If they're doing their buyer consultation up front and they want to bring up down payment assistance, it's hard for them because they don't want the person thinking that they're assuming something about their, right? So socioeconomic status. So by changing the way that I've talked to consumers, Kristin knows about me that I'm like huge into. I started studying the what do the home buyers of today, the modern day home buyer want? What's the psychology of these home buyers that are out buying homes, or what do people 25 to 45 years old think about home buying? And really tailoring my messaging to meet them where they're at has really been the game changer. I do talk about it on social media, but any forum like we're talking right now is kind of where someone will hear me speak and say, man, I need to talk that way to consumers as well, because it is leveraging somebody else's money, or being able to talk to a younger person that doesn't necessarily see a huge value in buying, or we're really trying to tell them they should buy, but they think they should go invest in Apple stock or something like that. Doing the comparison of the the 3.5% down payment, if you put that in Apple stock, I can show you what you would have made over the last 12 months. I could do the same thing with home buying, but on top of that, what if I told you you can leverage somebody else's money to make that not even your initial investment? That is converting younger home buyers too, by meeting them where they're at, because they think stocks and Bitcoin is where it's at, right? They're not necessarily doing the traditional methods that we spoke about for so many years. I've been in the business more than 20 years, so I can't talk about down payment programs the way I used to. The consumer has evolved, and I got to think about where they think that their money should go, and what do they call investing their money, right? What do they call using somebody else's money? Even if their parents could have given it to them, what would they call it? And that's what I go call it, because they meet with it. They're able to process the information I'm giving them a lot quicker because I met them where they are. In that Apple scenario, I did that when I met a buyer that walked into a home builder, and I was standing there and I saw he had an Apple phone and Apple Watch. So I know he's a consumer of Apple, but he didn't quite know if home buying would be for him. And should he come out with that money every month? And should he, in fact, buy a home when it's not easy to go from renting to owning now, payment wise? It's not $100 difference, But to convince him based on the investment of it and what that investment would look like and how I can minimize the out-of-pocket investment on the home for him, he was just like, sold. He's like, before I even saw the house, I'm sold that I need to at least buy a house, because the messaging has changed. And it's like that, where he will take that story I gave him and he will go tell all his peers that are 28 to 35 years old. And now I have more business coming in because of it. It is all in the way that you might talk about it or message it. So I did that, and I leaned on the people that do my marketing to follow suit, because I feel that I can't use the old school marketing to meet the customer that's my age group clientele on this down payment situation and appeal to them. So it's just a little bit different. But yes, you could go on social and say, what if I told you you can use somebody else's money to buy this house? And you got them, because it's provocative and they want to use somebody else's money all day long, when it's not, of course, a scam and it's trustworthy, right? And that's where we're getting the money from. People follow people with far less conviction and resources talking about using money or being able to invest and things like that. And now you've got the real deal here when you know your programs.
What I love about, and what I think is very interesting about when we're talking about down payment assistance, is you are talking about the psychology of the consumer and how crucial that point is, but also our own psychology and the psychology of the loan officer or the realtor, to address like, what are your misconceptions and myths about this, and maybe even just misinformation, because things have changed for so quickly over the past few years. But I think those have to go hand in hand and are very different things. But I love the language you use really matters. I know for me, I didn't use down payment assistance, but I did think that I couldn't buy a home, and I when I saw that, I thought it was a bad idea. I think that's what my main thing was, and it was just in my head. And I was an anxious, avoidant consumer, and when I was able to see things a certain way, it clicked, and I knew I would buy a home instantly. It wasn't like, oh, I don't know. It's just that when you find the right language for the consumer, it really opens the door to a huge population that is either avoiding this or didn't know that they could qualify. So this is super
Persistence
exciting.
can be a word that instantly makes people think they may not be able to get it because of income limitations. Like I said, in my home state, we don't have, I mean, I could do down payment assistance if you make up to 160,000 through my state agency, my state housing finance agency. So it's the stigma. And if I say, hey, you can get assistance, they instantly think, oh man, I'm going to barely be able to make any money. So they literally mentally check out from the conversation. That's the psychology behind it. So the words that you use and the language that you use and all your communication is important, because there are people that could have been your consumer that are checking out, and then somebody that explains it differently to them is the one that's going to be able to capture that client's attention, their mindset, make them think about it in a different way. Or home buying, there's a lot of things that we use, that words and terminology that were are associated with the fair housing days of 1968, and then we're in 2025 still trying to use them, and they don't necessarily connect with the consumer today. So evolving that a little bit, I think, has been a great task for me personally to take on, but it's netted so many different results. If the average age of the first time home buyer is 38 years old, I can't use the old nomenclature that's attached to home buying, or I'm attracting the wrong demographic, or the demographic that might be boomer age that's not going to be getting out of their house anytime soon, or own a home, or may not want to buy because they're like, I'm past that. I have to nail my audience with the communication.
Yeah. I think this is, understanding how we communicate is such a crucial part of winning business with first-time homebuyers, and especially those who may qualify for down payment assistance. Sean, is there anything that you want to share that, I know we've talked about addressing the misconceptions or the challenges that loan officers might feel in using down payment assistance, but is there anything else you want to share specifically on, like, if you feel that this is something a little bit, challenging for you, like what are some recommendations you have?
I would say Mosé leads by example, and you should follow her because I mean, everything you're describing is, they're the things that we talk about in some of our webinars. If you're, not up to speed on a DPA, then go research the DPA, get to know the product, shadow someone else who's originating one. And there are a lot of ways to learn fast, but I mean, let's just acknowledge there is some courage or some bravery to get through that first one or two. And we also, part of it is because your reputation's on the line. And if you mess that one up, then you may not get any more business from that agent and so forth. But I mean, if you want your brand to be, I take great listing pictures and I have great properties, cool, that's one thing. If you want your brand to be, I serve the luxury market, cool. Um, do you want your brand to be, I can open the door to more of you and let's come talk about how? Then you got to talk about these topics. You got to talk about down payment help, talk about these programs. And that becomes your brand over time, but also follow all these processes that Mosé is talking about to execute. And then that becomes an important part of your brand, and you're known to be trustworthy, reliable, close on time. And, that's like the most important part of an originator's brand, I would think, one of them. So yeah, I guess I would also say a good loan officer, probably in general, but certainly when it comes to down payment programs, is going to detach DPA from a lack of certainty. And I think that's a big part of the problem is down payment assistance offers look to a listing agent like a lack of certainty. Like that's a less qualified borrower or something like that. And part of your brand can easily become, that's not true, guys. Let's combat that misperception. And, I got them qualified. It shouldn't matter to you whether they're putting 20% down or getting a DPA. I got them qualified. My reputation's on the line. I'm telling you, we're closing in 30 days. We're good to go. Here's what you need to do to make it happen.
So it's actually a good lead into another question around how would you recommend maximizing down payment assistance by collaborating between a loan officer and real estate agent? Like, have you seen people co-marketing a program or just having these kinds of conversations around down payment assistance? Is there anything else that you would recommend around, just kind of how to maximize the impact of down payment assistance?
Mosé, I'll start just to quickly co-market and co-teach. I'll give you one example of each. There was a team of real estate agents in the Twin Cities building their business when we first started with the MLS up there, because we work with MLSs as well. And this team was two guys. They were hiring new agents and they were working with first-time homebuyers exclusively. They started co-marketing on Facebook, social media with their lender partner who was doing these loans. And so they would put out posts, picture, then they got permission to share the pictures and the names and highlights from the story of these clients. And they would post to their social audience, hey, here's such and such. We just got our $12,000 to buy our first home, and we did it with this mortgage company. Cool, super simple. It's so easy to do. And it's a great way for both the lender and the real estate agent to broadcast the availability of these programs, their expertise at doing them, and the opportunity that this presents to a buyer. And then I forgot the other part of the question. Anyway,
Oh,
so Mosi, oh yeah, I was gonna say co-teach and co-market. So the teaching part, there's so many first-time homebuyer class opportunities out there that a loan officer or an agent can go teach. You could pair up together, do lunch and learns, but I just think pairing up together, the agent and the loan officer learn from each other, but they're also building their pipeline together. So I'd boil it down to co-market, co-train.
love it.
I
Anything else to
agree.
add,
I
Mosi?
agree with Sean. I think that even if I'm not posting it on my page, just single video, there's agents out there that we sat down and just talked about a few topics, podcast style, and they are running it on their pages. It is helping them get other leads in because we talk about down payment assistance in a different way. Because it's not limiting, right? If you start talking assistance, and again, the people that make the least might come reach out to you. You can cast your net wider than that when you're talking to down payment assistance. If you do dive in and look at the programs that might meet more of your buyer set to buy in the average price that you do or what your target audience is, and have those conversations. So I sit down and I do things podcast style. So there's videos of me with agents on their pages that are getting them business. And of course, they call me because I'm the subject matter expert, right? That was in the video. And on top of that, we'll also do home buying webinars, and they were getting great traction on Eventbrite because you can run ads on Eventbrite. So getting 300 people to sign up for a webinar, even if you get 80 of them to show, man, you're growing your database, your reach is there. You know that you're talking about the things that the consumer wants to hear about, and it piqued their interest enough to even just register. So I did that for the first 6 months of the year to have a great, healthy amount of new audience to be able to then market to and consume content and things of that nature. So I think real estate agents, and for any real estate agents on this call, I'm telling you now, I love you, but at the same time, besides the process of buying a house, the consumers really are so invested right now in following people that give financial advice. It is the best thing out there for agents to collaborate with loan officers that know the program, know the product, and just talk about that because it gets far more spin or views on their page to have me on it than just, posting a video about, hey, I sold a house, right? They want to know how they got from point A to point B. And often the busy part on the back end after the contract is in fact the financial space. So it really helps real estate agents to have those sit downs with lenders and to expand their brand on that front. Do it legally because I'm the licensed one, right? And I can answer all those questions for you that would come in. So they can then be the expert that those consumers look to, in addition to me, to know that they have the connections with the people that can get it done.
I think collaborating around any kind of expertise in the area is also it's a pretty easy way to create content, and it creates relationships along the way. So I think that's a really awesome plan. I want to share with you guys, everyone on the call, just really briefly, if you are not already, again, familiar with Down Payment Resource, please go check them out. They have, like I said, a lot of information and education on their website. And obviously, it's a really great tool. And then if you're not familiar with First Home IQ, our whole mission is around bringing education to the next generation every step, whether it's from starting at the beginning of their financial journey when they're first getting a job, learning how to budget, save, and invest, or all the way through buying their first home. So that is our mission. If you want to get involved, we do provide free education to schools. We have free online courses, and then we are supporting parents and family with that education. And then we have we have free education for industry professionals as well as where are we? Oh, whatever. We have an ambassador program as well. But I'm gonna put in a just a quick link where if you haven't joined yet, you can check out our free resources for education. So if you want to use any of those materials to create some content online or partner with people, we do have a couple of presentations that you can access on money matters or money mindset. And then again, check out our partners, including Down Payment Resource, newest partner. And then also go to our events and you can check out, gosh, Mosaic was a long time ago, but she's somewhere in here where we talk about, I think it was this one, building trust with first-time home buyers. So we've got lots of great content in there. And again, free for anybody to join. We do have an ambassador program that's a fee that keeps us going. And we have a bunch of other resources there that you can check out if you're interested. So um, as we kind of close up here, if there's any questions from the audience, again, feel free to raise your hand or put those in the chat. But want to just have a closing thought from each of you on. Oh, Chesky's got a question. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, go for it, Chesky.
Hi. Hi. How's the partnership, the down payment resource partnership working with First Time Home IQ? What's the
Sorry, I was distracted by spotlighting you. What was it?
no problem. How is the partnership with the down payment resource with First Home IQ working? What
Yeah.
are the ambassadors gonna see?
So right now, the goal is to just kind of to bring education to our community about down payment resource, and down payment resource sponsored. And put in sponsorship dollars, and then the founder CEO is on our board. So we are in the process of figuring out what a potential true technology integration might look like. But we're going to kind of put that out to our ambassadors too and get some feedback. Right now, we have down payment resource on all of our, or not all of our, some of our education videos where we direct consumers to find those resources. But yeah, right now it's just awareness, and then we're going to work on where we add in that integration.
Got it. And the question for down payment resources, how does it work for a loan officer when we sign up with you? Are you guys arranging the DPA for particular borrowers, or you would get our bank approved? What's the process? What's the service?
Yeah, and actually, if somebody from our team can put a Down Payment Connect link in the chat, then so Down Payment Connect is for loan officers, and it gives you a directory of all of the programs in your market. You can choose which ones you offer and essentially approve them for display to a consumer, and then you get a consumer-facing piece that you can use to educate and engage the consumer. But they're only going to see, or we will only kind of curate the list based on which programs you offer. As far as stepping in and helping the borrower, we're not a lender, we're not licensed as a lender, so we're not, starting or doing anything with the application. But we're kind of, we're there to help you uncover all the DPAs that are available and present those to consumers and start those conversations.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions from anybody?
I guess I want to add something. My experience with down payment resource, because my state agency had it integrated into their webpage even years ago, but it would allow a consumer to be able to say, hey, I make about this much. And then it would filter down what would be available for them and as far as them qualifying. So when consumers have access to information, the information, the down payment resources cataloged, or you have it as a loan officer, it literally will nail down what possible down payment programs they may in fact fit in based on where they want to buy, their income range, and things like that. So it is in fact a great tool, but consumers, like Sean said, MLS, that they partner with for agents, it's a great tool because it makes the search for the down payment far less rigorous. You're not just picking up the phone and beating the proverbial phone book of trying to call, look at websites, decipher things. They've already compiled all the information nationwide. They have so many down payments logged in it that it makes it easy for you, even if you're licensed in multiple states, to be able to nail down and know where any changes are happening because they're doing the heavy lifting. So consumers are in fact accessing it, and that's where you'll get the commentary for them that I heard about this down payment program. Well, they may have stumbled upon down payment resource in some way, shape, or form to figure out or preliminarily think that they may qualify for it. So it helps arm us to be able to have that offering, to study these down payment programs, and to not just like close our eyes and point and say, okay, I'm going to call this person first to see if it's something I can offer or how to get my institution approved for it. It makes it very easy because they've done the heavy lift. And some down payment resource partners with some mortgage companies to where it's integrated into their tech stack to make it easy for them to find them as well. So their partnerships span a very, very vast range of people that they're touching and giving access to. But I know consumers have come to me because they've been on something or been with someone who had access to down payment resource and wanted to point me in this direction so I didn't have to look because they already did the search. So if it's easy enough for a consumer to use, we can use it as practitioners in the market. Sorry for stealing your thunder, Sean, but shameless plug for
I
DPR.
couldn't have said that any better, and thank you.
So as we wrap up, any last tips or, kind of main points that you want people to come away with from this conversation?
Couple things. Mosi, you actually just mentioned something, work with your company to get approved for a DPA. Loan officers, don't be afraid to work with your product development team. Figure out who the subject matter expert is there that handles DPAs for your company, and identify which programs are currently approved by your company that you can offer now, and then maybe work with them to see if there's something else out there that might work for you guys as well. And then I just would want to repeat, get out in front of agents, let them know that you offer these programs, because that's what so many real estate agents are looking for, is somebody that can help with a DPA transaction, but they need to know who that is. They need to know that it's you.
Jose, how about you?
I agree. I always tell everybody, pick a struggle. Is DPA hard, or you think it's hard and you have to know that other thing? You get to pick your hard. If there's a couple down payments that you can pluck out that fit the range of buyers or consumers that consume your content, or that you often run into, or that you're more referred, double down on just 2 programs to start if you need to. Research them, understand them, make sure your company has a grasp on getting them closed, and then go hard. Be on social media talking about leveraging other people's money, or give the Did You Know You Can Do This series, on social media. So you become the subject matter expert in your area, and people will definitely come to you. But I think that everybody at every company you work at, you have a support system. Don't be afraid to tap it, ask questions, ask to talk to a LO within your own company using your tech stack, and ask their experience on closing. And part of that did you know you can still close in 30 days, and if you can do that, man, own it. Just pick a couple. You don't have to do all of them immediately.
I love that. These are such good practical tips. And thank you guys so much for spending some time. This was really a great conversation about down payment assistance, psychology of buyers, winning more 1st-time home buyers. So thank you guys so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Mosi. It was
Thank
great to
you for
finally meet you.
having me. I know, great to meet you in person, Sean. Thank you for the opportunity, Kristin and Rob Crane. Of course, we love you over here at New American Funding.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.